In ancient Greece, the Moirai were feared and respected for their power and control over destiny. Many stories were told about their influence, but there was one that stood out. It was said that a mortal man named Clotho was once visited by the Moirai. They appeared before him, holding a spindle and a thread. Clotho knew who they were and was terrified, as he knew they had come to spin his thread of life. The first sister, Clotho, began to spin his thread. Clotho watched in horror as the thread grew longer and longer, knowing that the longer the thread, the longer his life. But then the second sister, Lachesis, came forward and began to measure the thread. Clotho held his breath, waiting for the final verdict. Just as Lachesis was about to announce the length of his life, Atropos, the third sister, stepped forward and cut the thread. Clotho's fate was sealed, and he knew that his life would be short. Many years later, Clotho met his end just as the Moirai had foretold. His story became a cautionary tale, reminding mortals that their fate was in the hands of the Moirai, and that no one was exempt from their power. As the Moirai continued to spin the threads of fate and shape the destinies of gods and mortals, the concept of destiny became embedded in Greek culture. The Moirai were revered and feared, and their role as enforcers of fate was never questioned. Even the gods understood that their power was limited in the face of the Moirai's control. The Moirai's story lives on as a testament to the power of destiny and the natural order of the universe. Once upon a time, there were three sisters known as the Moirai or the Three Fates. Their names were Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. Clotho was responsible for the moment of birth, while Lachesis spun out the events and actions of our life, and Atropos cut the thread of human life. The three sisters were worshipped by the Greeks, who believed they appeared 7 days after a child's birth to determine their fate. Spinning, destiny, and childbirth were themes associated with the Moirai, and they had a companion goddess named Eileithyia. Greek mythographers claim that the Moirai were the daughters of Zeus and Themis, and they even engaged in battle during the Gigantomachy, killing the giants Agrias and Thun. Despite being seen as agents of destiny, the Moirai could be worshipped and even placated by mortals who offered sacrifices to them. While they held great power over human life, their worship could also bring about good fortune and blessings. Once upon a time, in ancient Greece and Rome, people believed that the Fates, or Moirai in Greek, Parsi of Fata in Roman mythology, were responsible for determining the destinies of gods and men. These powerful goddesses were known as the sparing ones, because they held the power of life and death in their hands. But they were not the only trios of female deities associated with fate. In Norse mythology, the Norns were believed to rule over the destiny of gods and men. In Celtic mythology, the Matries and Matrones were often depicted in groups of 3 and were suggested to be associated with the Norns. Similarly, in Lithuanian mythology, the goddess Laima was one of the 3 fate deities responsible for prophesying a newborn's life. And even in Hurrian mythology, the Hutina were a trio of goddesses responsible for dispensing good and evil and determining the fate of human life. These different trios of fate deities across cultures signify the significance of fate and destiny in human life. Once upon a time, in the land of ancient Greece, there were 3 sisters who were known as the Fates, or Moirai. These 3 female deities were believed to control the life and destiny of every individual, and their control over life was absolute and unchangeable. Their power was so great that even renowned writers like Dante acknowledged it in his Divine Comedy. In Shakespeare's Macbeth, similar characters called the Weird Sisters or 3 witches existed in both reality and the supernatural. They were inspired by British folklore, witchcraft, and the legends of Norns and Moirai. They could twist the threads of fate, shaping destinies and causing chaos. These 3 witches were controlled by the chthonic Greek goddess Hecate, who was the master of magic, witchcraft, and necromancy. Hecate was also known as a symbol of female power, knowledge, and wisdom. In Greek culture, she was both feared and revered. Hecate was also identified with the leader of the nymphs, Artemis, and recognized as a goddess of childbirth. She was also known as the goddess of three-way crossroads, which was associated with magic and sorcery. All in all, the Fates, the three witches, and Hecate were all powerful female characters in Greek and British lore who controlled life and destiny and symbolized female power, knowledge, and wisdom.
Do you want to explore more Greek mythology stories? Who do you want to see featured next? Subscribe and leave a comment below to let me know. I'll see you in the next video.